Hi everyone. Today we're going to start working on our basic sloper. So this week we will be working on the bodice sloper. When you're done, you should wind up with something that looks like this. Yours will only have one dart. This one is a personal sloper with 2 darts, and it will be out of this oak tag. When I'm drafting to begin with, a lot of times I use sort of this, like, I have a roll of like plain white paper that I got at, I think it was at Joann's. It's by the Art Supplies, and it's for the children's tripod that it's mounted and can be pulled down in strips. So it's inexpensive, so I use that a lot. You can use your tracing paper to draft on, but it's hard to erase. And if you don't have anything else other than the paper I gave you, you can always use the oak tag, but I would suggest that you work in, to start out with a light enough pencil that you can erase it, and you can always flip it over if it doesn't come out right and work on the other side. So I'm going to kind of leave it up to you to make a decision how you want to work. My suggestion is always that you start to establish like a work habit, a pattern of doing things that you do every time, so that it becomes more second nature to you. I hope everybody did okay with taking body measurements. The exercise is so that you have measurements if you want to do a personal sloper or one for someone. And I don't think I covered every single measurement, so there may be some that we have to add as you go along. But if you look in your textbook on page 36, there's a chart called a standard measurement chart. And these are standard sizes that range from 6 to 18. And you could actually do a standard size sloper. If we were in the classroom, I probably would have had everybody just do a size 8. It would be easier for me as I'm coming around to work with you if everyone had the same measurements. You might want to just opt to do that right now, because then you won't have to take any more measurements. You won't have to try to interpret the measurements you made or check to make sure if they're correct, because the chart is numbered down the side over here with the names of the measurement. So when we're drafting, if I say you need your shoulder slope, in the companion work in the textbook, it will tell you that the shoulder slope is number 7, and you go across the chart to whatever size sloper you're making, and the measurements are there. So that might be, I think, as a group, a little bit easier way of working. We will discuss this at our next team meeting before you actually start drafting. The size 8 is what's considered in the industry the standard size, that when a company is developing a clothing line, they typically use size 8 as their sample size. And so once they get a finished sample of a garment, they call in what's called a fit model, who is the perfect size 8. And then they try the garments that the company has designed on, and they check them for fit, for wearability. Is it easy to sit down? Can you bend over? Can you raise your arms? All of those kinds of things on a fit model. I'm going to do a size 10 standard sloper because I don't really have that one in my set of slopers that I've made, and so I thought it would be good if I added to what I have as I'm working with you. So I'll be asking you to, not follow the exact measurements I'm doing, but whatever the appropriate measurement is. Another thing that I often find is difficult when people start out too is the math. Some of us are good at math. Someone like me, I'm terrible at math, and so actually learning to drape, and my background is in interior design, so I was constantly having to measure and add measurements together, and over the years I've become much better at math than I was when I started. So you can teach an old dog new tricks. You can learn new things. So I think what I'll do is I will make a little sheet about how to add fractions, and I will put it on Canvas in files. That might help you a little bit. You can always look for a YouTube video on how to add fractions. And then I will also show you how you can do it on a ruler. So let me pause for a minute and we'll kind of go over that first. Okay, so we're going to be drafting the steps that start on page 40, which is the front bodice draft. And you want to take it a step at a time, and you want to follow it step by step. So when they say figure 1, there's a picture that goes with it, and it will say to draft the first line, you're drafting A to B, and that's your the full length of your bodice. And you're going to come along to certain measurements that it tells you to either subtract or add a figure to it. So across the shoulder is 7 3/4 inches for a size 10. And they want you to subtract 1/8 of an inch. So here's where, it gets kind of sticky sometimes. How do you add 1/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch? Well, with fractions, and if I'm being elementary here, don't anyone please be not offended. I just know that I think it's a good idea if I cover the math, and then if you need some additional help, please reach out. Math was never my strong suit, so I have a lot of empathy for anybody that struggles with it. So in order to add them together, you have to take, if you're going to add 3/4 of an inch and you're going to subtract 1/8 of an inch, you actually have to convert the 3/4 into eighths. We're always working in eighths of inches. We're not doing working on a system that's in tens. So everything that you're going to measure is basically broken down into eighths. So if you have 3/4 of an inch and you want to subtract 1/8 of an inch, you actually have to convert that 3/4 into eighths. So if you look at the number at the bottom, you're doubling that. You're taking it from 4 to 8. So then you're doubling the top number. So 3/4 is going to be 6/8. And you can verify that by taking a ruler, and you can count the eighths along here. So when I'm at that 3/4 mark, which is right there, if you count those, 3/4 is actually 6/8. So then you're able to take the 7 3/4, and now it becomes 7 6/8. You've got to subtract 1/8. So we take 1/8 away from the 6/8, and we have 5/8. So that's the easiest way to convert it. On the bust span, they're going to talk about you need 3 7/8, and you're adding 1/4. So again, you have to take that 1/4 inch and you turn it into 1/4 is actually 2/8. Now, when I add my 2/8 and my 7/8, I have 9. Well, 9/8 is more than 1. So you subtract the 8, which turns into 1 inch, and then you have 1/8 left. So the only other thing I can tell you that makes it pretty easy is if I want 3 7/8, which is right here on the ruler, so there's the 7/8, and I'm adding 1/4 inch. If I count 2 spaces, which is eighths, so there's the 2. So what do we have? We have 4 1/8. So do whatever makes it easiest for you. My suggestion is, as you go along and we're drafting, is that in the book, they give you a space to write the number of the measurement. And it will tell you that you need the measurement for across the shoulder on the chart is number 14. So you go over to the chart, you get that measurement, you write the measurement down. Be careful that you pay attention to the fact that there's a front measurement and a back measurement for many of these measurements. And then I always just go over here next to it and I add whatever I have to add, and I write the number out here in the space between the paragraphs and the actual illustration. Or you write them down. A lot of times when I'm drafting, if my center front is, say, 18 inches, when I draft this line, sometimes I'll write 18 next to it, and it's really small, so that if I have to go back and change anything, I can double check that I did a correct measurement, that I didn't make a mistake. And trust me, everybody will make a mistake here and there. It happens. And so you go around, and if you're bodice sloper doesn't look quite right, we've got to check those measurements. So I'm going to go ahead and videotape draping, or not draping, drafting this front bodice, and then you'll be able to follow along in a video and go step by step. If you're good without the video and you can follow the written instructions, that's fine. Do whatever works best for you. But I'm trying to make as many resources available as possible since we're not in the classroom and I can't come around and help everybody individually. If you need additional help, please don't be afraid to reach out to me, and we can do some smaller team meetings. We can break up into groups, or I can do some individual ones. Whatever helps you get through this process, especially initially. And when you become more proficient at it, it'll all gel together and make a lot more sense. So it's a whole new skill that you're learning, and it's a very technical skill. And so take your time and reach out where you need help.